When you deploy containers using Azure Container Instances, you need to secure your workloads to prevent unauthorized access, data exposure, and vulnerabilities. Since ACI is a serverless container runtime, Azure manages the infrastructure for you, but you are responsible for securing your container configurations, network access, and stored data. By applying strong authentication, network isolation, container image security, and continuous monitoring, you can ensure that your containerized applications run securely. Let's understand how you can restrict network access to containers. By default, ACI allows you to expose your containers to the internet, but you should limit access to reduce security risk. How can you do this? You should use private networking. Means you should deploy ACI inside an Azure virtual network to restrict access to your containers. You should disable public IP address if not required. Means only expose your containers to the internet if absolutely necessary. You should use network security groups. Means control which IP addresses and services can access your ACI workloads. And you should implement private link. Means you should securely connect ACI to Azure services like storage accounts and Key Vault without exposing them to the public internet. Bottom line, by securing network access, you prevent unauthorized users from reaching your containers. To prevent unauthorized users from modifying or accessing your ACI workloads, you must enforce strong authentication and access control. What authentication and access mechanism available in this case? Azure Role-Based Access Control, Microsoft Entra ID, and Manage Identities. This holds true almost for all the Azure services if supported. Of course, by enforcing authentication and identity management, you reduce the risk of unauthorized users accessing your containerized applications. The images you use in ACI must be free from vulnerabilities and unauthorized modifications. How can you do this? You store images in a private container registry. You can use Azure Container Registry instead of public registries to ensure your images are trusted and verified. You scan images for vulnerabilities. You can enable Microsoft Defender for containers to detect security flaws before deployment. You sign and verify images. You can use content trust to ensure that only verified and signed container images are deployed. And you use read-only file systems. You can prevent containerized applications from making unauthorized changes during runtime. Bottom line, by securing your container images, you ensure that your workloads are free from malicious code or vulnerabilities. Your ACI containers might need access to sensitive data like database credentials, API keys, or configuration files. You must protect this data to prevent leaks or unauthorized access. How can you do this? You store secrets in Azure Key Vault. Instead of hard-coding credentials in your containers, use Key Vault to store and retrieve secrets securely. You encrypt data at rest and in transit. You should ensure all data stored and transmitted by ACI is encrypted using Azure encryption services. And you restrict storage access. If your containers need persistent storage, limit access only to the necessary workloads using Azure RBAC and storage policies. Bottom line, by securing sensitive data, you prevent unauthorized access and data leaks from your containerized applications. To maintain security, you need to monitor ACI activity and detect potential threats in real time. How do you do this? You enable Microsoft Defender for containers. This will detect threats, vulnerabilities, and suspicious activity in your ACI workloads. You log ACI activity using Azure Monitor. You can track who created, modified, or deleted your container instances. And you set up alerts for security events. You can configure Microsoft Defender for Cloud to notify you about unauthorized access attempts or anomalies. Bottom line, by monitoring your ACI workloads, you can quickly detect and respond to security threats before they escalate. If your organization has security policies or compliance requirements, you need to ensure your ACI deployments follow best practices. How can you achieve this? You use Azure policy to enforce security standards. This can prevent misconfigurations, untrusted image pools, and open network exposure. You enable audit logging. You can track who accesses or modifies your ACI instances for auditing and compliance. And you ensure compliance with industry standards, aligning your ACI security practices with ISO, PCI DSS, or HIPAA requirements. Bottom line, by enforcing governance and compliance, you keep your containerized workload secure and audit ready. Overall, to effectively secure your Azure container instances, you must apply security at multiple levels, such as restrict network access with private networking, NHGs and private link. Control authentication and authorization with Azure RBAC, Microsoft Entra ID, and manage identities. Secure your container images with trusted registries, image scanning, and read-only access. Protect sensitive data using encryption, key vault, and storage access controls. Monitor threats and activity using Microsoft Defender for Containers, Azure Monitor, and Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And enforce security policies with Azure policy and compliance standards. By following these security best practices, you can confidently deploy and run secure containers in Azure container instances while minimizing security risk.